Finance Committee meeting to order. Today's the 3rd. It's approximately 1 o'clock. Motion to approve minutes of the prior meeting. Mr. Bruno, second by Mr. Thomas. All approved. Say yay.
Aye.
Yay. Against? Okay, carried. All right, let's get right into it. Request for transfer of funds from the committee approval. This will be Ryan Moore, and then we'll go right into Mr. Swan. So, Mr. Moore?
Before we get to 2A, we need a committee approval on number 1.
What did I pass?
Number 1.
Journal transfers. I'll make that motion.
I see that. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Request for transfer of funds as attached for committee approval. Do I have a made by Ms. Bramer, second by Mr. Bruno? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Thanks. Didn't see that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 2A is the typical journal report of transfers. Anybody have any questions on those? They're in your packet. Hearing none, we can go to 2B, and I believe Tammy's here to speak to that one.
I guess that was just-
Thank you, Tammy.
Okay.
This is a request to authorize revisions to the Warren County volunteer policy.
Okay. As promised, after we made changes to the travel, education, and vehicle use policy, we took a look at the Warren County volunteer policy. I want to thank those that took a look at it. Jackie Figueroa looked, Amy Clute, Carla Curran, the chairwoman Sieber, and Supervisor Bramer. We've added some language so that we have a better tracking of our volunteers. So we're sure that we can thank them for their volunteer service with us. So some amendments to the forms. You should have a strike out version of the current policy. There were some other amendments. Westmount Health Facility had been remaining in the policy. This policy, I think, was originally written in 2015. So these are just amendments for that. If anybody has any questions, happy to answer them.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to authorize the revisions to the county volunteer policy. Motion moved by Mr. Bruno, second by Ms. Bramer. Discussion? Seeing none? I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Carried. Did we vote on A?
We didn't have to.
We didn't have to. Okay, thank you. Okay, we're now on number 3 on your agenda. That's a request and items to be discussed by the county treasurer. Mr. Swan, take it away.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Almost said good morning. The first item A is a request to approve a list of chargebacks, refunds, and corrections. These are from the January 2021 tax rolls. If you have any questions about them, they're basically either court-ordered assessment changes or billing an error or a bill adjustment. And you do need a resolution to approve this.
Okay, do I see anybody move? Moved by Mr. Thomas, second by Mr. Bruno. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
All right, item B is the two projects, capital projects we had going on at SUNY Adirondack. One is the NSTEM project where we we took out a bond to put in some money, and the other is the culinary expansion into downtown Glens Falls, where we funded that we basically loaned them the money to do that. Those projects are done. We need to close out the capital accounts, and the $52,000 and the $41 will be going back into the debt service, and or the general fund.
Okay, do I have a motion? A motion by Mr. Thomas, second by Mr. Bruno. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Peter, did you say aye too?
I said aye. You got it, Duggar.
All right, thank you. Okay, I'd like to keep you in the mix. C, Mr.
All right.
Swan.
C and D are kind of intertwined. When the nursing home was sold 6 years ago, there was some outstanding debt. Some of it was Medicare, some of it was private pay. For the last 6 years, we've been doing a variety of different things, trying to collect all this money. You have no idea what we've gone through. And we've whittled that down from well over $1 million. I think it was $1.9 million when we started, down to about $342,000. I am requesting that we move $121,000 from the reserve Westmount legacy costs account to the public nursing home bad debt expense so that we can pay that off. And then request authorized to write off the $342,560.10. There is still about $100,000 outstanding, but I am in litigation with the outside counsel that we hired to collect this debt, and we are going to court with that. It's not really, I guess I can discuss it. Basically, what happened is that Counsel Tom Clements has had me appointed as the administrator of the estate for this person. And now we are in the process of going to Supreme Court to see if we can force them to give us back the money. And right now, I won't say. I think we have a hearing coming up pretty soon, but I don't remember.
Okay, do I have someone want to move this? Ms. Bramer, would you like to move this?
I have a question as well.
Okay, well, in the discussion part, I'd be glad to hear it. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Thomas. Okay, discussion. Ms. Bramer?
You might not know this answer, Mike, but recently I understand that the state did some reconciliation with Medicare expenses that covered like a 5-year window. Has the state finished its reconciliation of all the, I believe there were still like some outstanding reconciliation that we hoped we could get some money back with respect to old Westmount.
We have
Is it-
exhausted that avenue completely.
It's
Believe me.
Completely.
Yes.
And then, so this is if I may, just, this is
Correct.
writing off this 342,560 plus what Mr. Clement is handling. That's it. That's the end of our debt.
Yeah, because the Medicaid, we've all settled that out. That's all already been done. What we're dealing with right now is what was private pay stuff.
Okay. And we're not, I understand that, but you think there's no chance in the world we'll get any more from the
Well,
state?
I mean, never say never, but yeah, I don't think we've got a chance of getting any of that money. We're done. I mean, we have literally hired people, bought software, done everything possible that we could possibly do to try to collect that back money. It just wasn't billed correctly originally and nobody followed up on it.
I remember us hiring or buying the software. Yeah.
Mr. Moore?
It looks like the balance in the Westmount Reserve is about 4.26 million. So we're just, we seem to be in a pretty solid position to do these write-offs.
Well, that was because thankfully when the nursing home was sold, the majority of that money was moved into this legacy account at my insistence and several other people here, so that we had money to pay the legacy costs going down the road. So there is plenty of money in there to cover this. And we are using that money. It is dwindling down every year because we are paying legacy costs every year. Retirement costs, all those type of things that we have to pay.
Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, can we combine C and D?
Yes.
Do I have a motion to combine C and D? Motion by Mr. Bruno, second by Mr. Thomas.
Yep.
Okay, so I will now call the question. All in favor of C and D, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you, Peter. Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Swan. Nice job. Okay, Ms. Hogan, and she's not here now. This is referrals from the Economic Growth and Development Committee. Is Liza here? I'm not sure if she's not. Okay,
I'll move it, Chairman.
okay, you move 4A, which is the request to amend the county budget in the amount of $11,222.48 to reflect the receipt of a dislocated worker grant funds from the state of New York. Seconded by Mr. Thomas. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you, Peter. Carried. B, request to establish capital project H405. It's a Lake George septic replacement program in the amount of $340,000. Moved by Mr. Thomas, seconded by Ms. Bramer. Discussion. Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. Carried. 4C, request to amend the county budget in the amount of $5,000 to reflect the receipt of a NYSERDA Clean Energy Communities Grant Award. Moved by Mr. Bruno, second by Mr. Thomas. Discussion? All right, hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Opposed? Okay. D, we're on 4D. Request to authorize a transfer of funds in the amount of $4,984 from the contingent account A.1990469 to budget code A.8021-420, 420, planning and community develop contract to provide for the county share of the NYSERDA Level 2 energy audit. Basically, we just need to pay a little bit that NYSERDA didn't cover. That's $4,984. Do I have somebody want to move that? Mr. Thomas, second by Mr. Bruno. Discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Bless you. 4E, request to authorize a transfer of funds in the amount of $1,443.34 from the contingent account A.1990469 to budget code A.9901901. It's interfund transfers to offset and write off state receivables associated with CD 34. Do I have someone want to move that? Moved by Mr.
I'll
Thomas.
move it, Doug. This is Peter.
Thank you. Okay, Peter, I got you on the second. Thank you. I got
Thank
Mr.
you.
Everett on the second. Discussion? Okay, hearing now, I call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Carried. Okay, and now we're on F, authorizing the write-off of state receivables in the amount of $1,443.34 for CD 34. Moved by Mr. Thomas, second by Mr. Bruno. Discussion? Okay, hearing now, I call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. Carried. All right, we're on to number 5 now on your agenda. It's a referral from the Environmental Concerns and Real Estate Property Tax Services Committee. It's chaired by Mr. Dickinson, but I see Lexi's here. So Lexi, do you want to tell us what we got here? Thank you.
So committee had requested for me to go out and get a quote from Atlantic Testing to have some asbestos and lead testing done at the Mosher's Garage property in Johnsburg. And they came back with a cost of $5,709.50. I'm requesting $6,000 to be transferred from the A893 Reserve Environmental Testing Funds to the real property contracts code of A1355-470. Because there is one of the things that they said if was required is a lead-based paint chip sample. In the office, there is an office in this building that has paint in it. I stopped there yesterday to clarify that when we were out posting for auction parcels, and there is definitely a whole office that's got paint. So there will be paint samples that will need to be tested.
Lexi, can you tell us how much we have in the Reserve Environmental Testing Fund?
Oh, I'm guessing at that. I'm thinking about 150,000.
That's right where we're at.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I will entertain a motion. Motion by Mr.
I'll
Thomas.
move it, Doug.
Thank you. Second by Mr. McDevitt. Discussion. Okay, Mr. McGowan.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. I'm not on the committee, but I've been in.
Would you get your microphone closer to you, Mr. McGowan?
Oh,
Thank
I'm
you.
sorry. I forgot I put it up there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, but I'm not on the committee, but as I brought this up before, and I had discussions with Lexi, and she has sent me, some information, but I have a real concern with this, money coming out of our reserve fund, and I know it's there, for a reason for this, but I would really like to pursue looking into, some of the other assets. From what I understand is that the Mosers, do have quite a bit of land up there, and that the land was divided up after, the parents have deceased, or beforehand, and they walked away from this property to leave it on the taxpayers. And I have a problem, asking the taxpayers, especially, 32% of Queensbury, to say that they have to come up with this money, even though the money is in for the environmental. It has come out of, the auctions that we have had, on these properties, and we put it in there for this fund. So, eventually it still all comes from the taxpayers. And I have a problem with, with putting all this money into properties when people have ruined it and then they walk away from it. So I just want to go on the record saying that, and I'm asking to look into this and other matters, and I'm working on it. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. McGowan. From a legal standpoint, I'm not sure if we have much recourse, though. Mr. Twillinger, could you opine on that?
Yeah, legal recourse is kind of a hard one on this one. I know New York State is in on it for a fair amount of money too, for having done some work on it from the DEC, and I can't recall the exact amount they have, but it's over 100,000. I'm
160.
I think it's about 160.
160,000 on it there. I mean, as far as looking for environmental pollution matters go on it, we'd have to see what kind of lawsuit, if any, could be brought against any state or of that whoever. I mean, I understand that the people who did own it are deceased, and whether it's been transferred to their heirs or is still in the name of the deceased and all that, we'd have to look into whether that's
Transferred to
even
their
viable
heirs.
and whether it's even viable to see. Plus, again, New York State's going to have a claim there too, probably for what they put into this, the 160 at this point.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Twillinger. Would you like a follow-up question,
Would
Mr.
just like a
McGowan?
follower. Yes, I'd like to see what we could do to work with New York State and do this. I just don't think it's fair for, our county residents, and on top of that, the state, since the state residents, it's the same thing. So if there is some recourse, or if not, maybe we should establish a law so we do have a president if this happens in the future. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. McGowan. Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, I will call the question. We're on
Chair.
5A. Oh, we don't have a motion for 5A yet?
Oh, 5A, I'm sorry.
We were still on 5A. Did you have a discussion, Ms. Kramer?
Yes, I just wanted to make a comment too, that the environmental committee did ask that we have outside counsel to help us with litigating that matter. So I'm hopeful that once we get that lined up through our county attorney's office, that they will be able to look at whether or not there's any way we can find other assets owned by this property owner. But
Okay.
Robert has a lot on his plate, and I think this is a specific item that we can have outside counsel address for us.
Do we have outside counsel now, are you saying, Ms. Kramer?
That went through committee. I don't think that Robert's had a chance to look at anybody yet.
Okay, all right,
So
but that's in the process. So what you're saying is we're in the process of hopefully getting
That's-
outside counsel?
That's the next item on the agenda to approve outside counsel.
Well, there you go.
Thank you.
Talk about Jiffy on the spot. There you have it.
If I can though,
Yes,
chime in on
Lexi.
that, because I think that the request that committee was only to use outside counsel for the temporary incidents of ownership. I didn't think it was including anything else on this.
Don't we,
No.
may I, Chairman?
Yes, Ms. Kramer.
Well, if it's too narrow, then I'd like to expand that to say assist with foreclosure and any other legal processes needed to get our money
Okay.
back.
Okay, so let's do this. Let's vote on 5A, and then when we get to 5B, we can expand that request. Okay? So let's vote on 5A. I hear a little buzzing or beeping sound.
Yeah, we don't know what it is.
I'm not sure what that is, but I answered any bells or beeping, so I'm like a Pavlov dog. All right, so I'm going to call the question. All in favor of 5A, say yes.
Aye.
Nay, say no.
Someone might be trying to call in.
Okay, approved. Now we're going to go to 5B. And 5B is The request to authorize the county attorney's office to obtain outside counsel to assist with the process of reinstating the temporary incident of ownership on the Mosier property located in the town of Johnsburg. Now, Lexi, you're saying we need to have that expanded, correct?
Yeah, because I believe in committee, it was only requested to use outside counsel for the reinstatement of temporary incidents of ownership. I don't think it encompassed anything else. So if that's the case, then yes, Claudia would be right. We
Oh.
need to broaden it.
Okay, so I'll entertain anything from the committee if they want to broaden that resolution. Ms. Bramer, did you say you wanted to broaden it? And what would you say in the broadening of that resolution?
Maybe Robert can help, but outside counsel to assist with litigating the entire matter. Any aspects of that piece of property, the foreclosure, the temporary incidents of ownership, and I don't know if there's a mechanism to recoup funds.
Okay, all right, Mr. Tillinger? Would you answer your phone, please? Oh,
That actually sums it up pretty good. Yeah, it would be those matters on it. We want to look at temporary incidents of ownership, whether that can be done again by a simple motion. This case was closed in kind of a weird way. So it might be able to be done just by a motion to reopen that and get a temporary court order, giving the county that ownership incidents again to go in and do the inspection. And also to see if their independent outside counsel would be able to do any kind of investigation or litigation to recover for pollution expenses, the expenses the county incurs in seeking the temporary incidents of ownership, the expenses incurred for the cost of the testing. Again, New York State may want to be in on that too, to recover any of their costs that they've put in so far if they can. What was the other? My other question on this too is how we pay for it. If it's coming out of the county attorney's budget, I don't really have a problem with it unless there's not any money there to pay for it. So that's something I would have to defer to the county administrator on as to how this could be funded.
Okay, well, first of all, let's have further discussion on this. Our budget officer, Mr. Thomas.
Can we get an estimate from an attorney, what any litigation would cost before we engage them?
Okay, so you're asking if we can get an estimate on the cost of additional counsel to take on an expanded role?
Maybe council could review if there even is a case, and if there is, then what it would cost to pursue it.
Okay, all right, so
I don't
before we vote on this, you'd like to have that done, correct? Is that correct, Mr. Thomas?
I don't like giving attorneys open end. Go spend whatever you
I'll be
want.
getting my license next week, so, okay, so I guess if this committee wants to, at this point, withdraw the motion until we get an estimate on the, a guesstimate on additional costs of an attorney, we could move it to next month. This isn't time sensitive, is it, Lexi?
I'm not seeing it on the quote, to see how long that quote would last. I can double check on that. It's not, but the issue that we want to keep in mind, we don't want to end up like Mullins and start working on a project in the middle of winter,
Yeah.
which ends up costing more money. I mean, the testing part, to just go in and have them test, is fairly easy and quick, to get us back to see where we're at with that. But then it depends on what we need to do to keep moving forward with the cleanup.
Okay, Mr. McGowan, you have a comment, and then Mr. Thomas.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Twilliger said that it could be a simple motion just to reopen it. I would like to see if he could squeak in a little bit of time, because I know how jammed up you are. If that is a possible, easy, so keep this moving. I'm not here to stall this. I'm just here or saying this. I'm not saying this to stall this at all. What I am saying is, I'm saying this to see what we can do to recoup.
Right, Mr. Thomas?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the temporary incidents of ownership. It's the litigation. I mean, if it's the same attorney, that's not a problem. Just before they engage in any litigation.
Okay, so let me run this by you. What if we voted on the request to authorize, outside counsel just for the reinstating of the temporary incident of ownership. And then we have a separate resolution once Mr. Twillinger comes back with an estimate of the cost of an attorney. Does that sound feasible? Ms. Kramer?
I totally hear what Supervisor Thomas is saying. I agree with that approach. I would just say, hopefully Mr. Terwilliger has money somewhere in his contract budget to go forward with the hiring of the temporary incidents of ownership attorney.
Okay, so if we're all in agreement that we'd like to vote on 5B, whoever made the original
I
motion is
did.
gonna have to take off the amendment portion
Yeah,
of it.
oops, I will do that, undo
Okay, Ms.
whatever.
Kramer, you'll take off the
Yeah.
amendment. And who seconded that one?
I don't have a second for that one.
Oh, Mr. Bruno. Okay, so we will take off the amendment on 5B. We'll vote on it as it stands. Mr. Tillinger, did you want to opine?
I did want to butt in in a minute if I can here. As far as I'm wondering about the time frame for getting applying for the temporary incidents of ownership for that property. I mean, I'm notorious for biting off more than I can chew, but it is something that our office can definitely do. Is it something that has to immediately be done today or Monday in that kind of very, very short time frame? Outside counsel wouldn't be doing it that quick because we wouldn't be engaging them that fast. I couldn't do it that quick, but if it was maybe like a couple of weeks, like a 2-week time frame to have the paperwork submitted, I definitely would commit to that and have it done within that time, at least to make the motion. That's the quickest, fastest way we can do it and get something done like that. If that time frame would work, I mean, we can do that in-house.
Yes, Alexis?
I had spoke with my committee chair Supervisor Dickinson, who felt that if the county attorney's office couldn't move forward in, 2 to 3 days timeframe when I had talked to him, that he would like to see it go to outside counsel. But that again is not my decision to make, so I'm not sure how you want to move forward with that.
All right, Mr. Moore?
If you go to outside counsel, you need a resolution. So it's going to be more than 2 or 3 days. It's going to be the board meeting.
Amen.
Okay. So then that would get us through his 2 weeks.
Okay, yes, Ms. Kramer?
I hear what Robert is saying. I would still like to go forward with this resolution though, because that kind of gives us then an opportunity for him to talk to someone about getting a quote on litigation or whether there's a case there at all or not. I think they could do that without, spending too much money.
So you're saying go forward with 5B as is, correct?
I would
Ms.
like,
Kramer?
as it's written here, yes.
As it's written?
Yeah.
Okay, and we took off the amendments.
Yeah.
So that motion is on the floor. We are in the discussion phase of that. Is there any other discussion on that?
Yeah, I'd like to say something, Doug.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. McDevitt.
Doug, I think the most important consideration here is the cleanup of the property and that we not lose sight or we delay by creating a kind of, it seems like another legal monster here about who is responsible, who is not responsible. This pollution occurred over many years. So my only observation is let's clean up the property and go ahead with the legal process as long as we're assured that we're not short-circuiting or stopping the cleanup of this property.
Okay, thank you, Peter.
That's all I had to say.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas?
Yeah, the way I see this resolution is we authorize the county attorney. It doesn't necessarily mean he has to engage another attorney. If he feels he can do it himself and make the motion to the court, then great. But he still has the authorization.
Okay. Good point. Chairwoman Sieber.
Thank you, Chairman Beatty. I think that what Supervisor Thomas brought up was an important distinction, that it's an authorizing to engage in it. But we also need to remember that our county attorney's office is not fully staffed. We have 2 attorneys, 1 clerical staff, and they're busy. Being able to have an option to go out for specialized services like this, I think is critical, that we're paying attention to those workloads. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, any other discussion? All right, seeing none, I'm going to call the question as is on 5B. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? None opposed. Okay. And, Mr. Twillinger, I guess, the committee would like you to look into an independent counsel cost. Is that correct, Mr. Thomas and Mr. McGowan? You'd like to look into hiring an independent counsel, what the cost would be before we take any action on that part. Okay, very good.
Or join in with New York State if there's one going.
Okay, okay, thank you, Mr. McGowan. Thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right, now we're on 6. Refer from the Health Committee. Is Supervisor Frazier on the phone or? No, she's missing in action. Okay. So the Public Health, this is from Janelle Jones also, request to amend the county budget in the amount of $4,660 to reflect receipt of increased funding provided by Health Research Incorporated to support the current expenses related to the COVID virus. Okay, do I have somebody who wants to move that? Moved by Mr. Thomas, second by Mr. Bruno. Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We're on 7. Referral from Public Safety. This is chaired by Mr. Diamond. He had to leave for an appointment. So I'll read it. It's request to increase capital project H254 Fire Training Center project in the amount of $7,992.73 to reflect reimbursements from Washington County in the same amount. Okay, do I have somebody who wants to move this? Moved by Mr. Thomas. Second by Ms. Bramer. Okay, discussion. Okay, seeing none, hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We're on number 8A. This is from Supervisor Conover and Kevin Hajos. I saw Kevin here earlier. I don't know if he's still on the phone or not, maybe not.
I think that was yesterday.
He was here yesterday. Thank you, Mr. Bruno. Oh, he is here? He's back again. Mr. Hajos is back. Okay, Kevin. How you doing? Okay.
How are you?
Good, thank you. It's been a long time. So we're on 8A, and go ahead and tell us what you're looking for.
Sure. 8A is a request to increase capital project H322. This is the Palisade Road Bridge project. The bids came in a little bit higher than what was expected, but DOT and Federal Highways are good, giving us the extra funding. So this is to increase the capital project for those construction costs.
Okay, so what would be the increase to increase?
In the amount of $161,985.69.
The local share, that's our local share?
No, that's the entire share. 5% of that would be the local share.
Well, 10% would be 16,000, so 8,000. Okay. 8,000, okay. All right, do I have somebody who wants to move this? Moved by Mr. Thomas, second by Mr. Bruno. Discussion? Hearing and seeing now, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you, Peter. Carried. Okay, we're on 5B, Kevin.
Yeah, 8B would be a request to increase capital project number H395, which is the Oxbow Hill Moon Hill Road rehabilitation reconstruction project in the amount of $2,175,465 to add the shares for the construction phase of the project.
Okay, do I have someone who wants to move this? Moved by Mr. Thomas, second by Mr. Bruno. Okay, discussion? Hearing and seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. We're on C. Kevin?
C is a request to increase capital project H386, which is County Route 7 Halfway Creek Bridge replacement in the amount of $44,000, which is to increase the funding for right-of-way incidental and acquisition cost.
Okay, moved by Mr. Thomas, second by Mr. Bruno. Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Carried. Carried. D.
D is a request to increase capital project H394 Amsterdville Road, County Route 19 reconstruction in the amount of $90,000 to add all shares for a right-of-way acquisition phase and to increase the preliminary engineering and right-of-way incidental phases.
Okay, moved by Mr. Thomas, second by Mr. Bruno. Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I,
Great. Thanks, Peter. All right, E.
The last item on there is a request for the transfer of funds in the amount of $12,000 from the contingent account. I spoke with Supervisor Thomas about this. This is for the household hazardous waste days. We only had budgeted this year approximately $24,000, and good for us because of the collection. We have already spent $22,000 of that in the Queensbury pickup. The next household hazardous waste day would be in Warrensburg, so we'll just need some funding for that portion of the project.
Okay, just to let the committee know, we have in our current contingency account balance 265,000. Okay, does I have somebody, Mr. Bruno will move this? Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Thomas. Do I have discussion on this? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Mr. Hajos.
You're welcome.
All right, we're on 9. This is a referral from the Tourism and OCTAX Coordination Committee. It's chaired by Mr. Garrity. I don't see him here. I think Elvis has left the arena. So this is 9A. This is a request to amend the county budget in the amount of $300,000 to move funds from the occupancy tax reserve to the 2021 tax budget in reflection of savings from the 2020 deficit reduction plan. Okay, do I have somebody who wants to move this? Moved by Mr. Thomas, second by Mr. Bruno. Any discussion? Mr. McGowan has a comment.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Today, we voted for another 100,000. Could we change that 300 to 400,000? Or does that 100,000 have to come back through and we have to wait another, to the next finance meeting?
We could, if someone wants to make a motion to add that 100,000 to that $300,000, would someone,
They can, Mr. Thomas and Mr. Bruno can just amend their.
yes, they can amend their motion. So Mr. Thomas, would you, okay, Mr. Thomas amended it from 3 to 4. Mr. Bruno, do you second that? Okay, so that's been second. So it will now read, to amend the county budget in the amount of 400,000 to move from OCTAX reserve to the 2021 OCTAX budget. Okay, discussion still, Ms. Bramer.
Thank you. I brought up in OCTAX this morning that I think we should be adding another 100,000 to the 100,000 to make it 500,000, because we are looking at the potential for another quite a bit of money, but I won't try to move that now, but I just want to make that point here that we still have more money coming to us, and hopefully we can have Supervisor Garrity bring that through the OCTAX committee in the near future. But I'm in support of this extra 100,000 to make it one. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? All right, seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I,
Carried. Thank you. Okay, 9B, which is request to amend the county budget in the amount of $40,744.02 to amend the tourism budget to record the difference between the revenue and expenditures from the 2021 Winterfest event. So I have someone who wants to move that. Mr. Thomas, second by Mr. Bruno. Discussion. Now, remember, this is the first event that I can remember that we got our OCTAX money back.
Plus.
Plus $744.02. So, I know we've had discussion in OCTAX about maybe this becomes more of a path for keeping the money in the OCTAX solvent and even expanding it. But I applaud the Winterfest people for taking the initial step, and it was their request that they do this. No one I know of from the county asked them to do this. They recommended that they would look into doing that if they were successful. So I applaud Mr. Dutcher and his people that worked on this Winterfest, made it a success, and gave back all 40,000 plus $744.02. So I think that's a big win for the county. I think it's a big win for events in general. So thank you. So I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Carried. Okay, thank you. We're on number 10 now. Finance Committee,
Mr. Beatty?
yes.
The finance agenda, the personnel items numbers are wrong, so it should be 2B, 7, 8A through C and 9. And the treasurer, it's still under review by the personnel committee, so no action was taken on item 10.
So no action was taken on item 10, so I can scratch 10 2B.
Or, no, item 10 for the treasurer's
Okay,
request.
so that includes all those things, right?
Nope, just the
No,
one
no.
for the treasurer. The item, it's the position one. If you go
Where am I
on
looking?
the last.
Oh.
Third page. Right there.
I think,
Okay, it was not, it was in a
Yeah, there
different
was
order.
no
Gotcha. Okay. So number 9 on your agenda was on a different page, was tabled or scratched. So we won't be voting on that. So
No, and then for item 2B of the, if you flip it back over,
Okay,
for the NACO travel, a source of funding needs to be
Established.
identified for
Okay.
that. And in addition to the transfer funds, approval from the finance committee is request to proceed with purchases relating to NACO travel immediately using funds currently in budget to meet the deadline for early bird registrations, which saves approximately $185 per person to book on-site hotel reservations while they are still available, and to secure lower flight rates. The transfer requested will be used to replenish budgeted funds used, and anything unused will roll over to cover travel for the fall NISAC conference, which is to be held in person.
okay, so what do we need?
You need to identify a
Oh,
source of funding for 2B.
okay,
to-
and the amount of the funding?
It's 10,000.
Okay, so we're gonna need to establish a funding source. Mr. Thomas, do you have a suggestion? You're our expert in that arena.
Contingent.
Okay, that's what I was gonna go with. Thank you. All right, so Mr. Thomas is recommending that we use the contingency fund, which we currently have 265,000 minus a few bucks, for the funding source for the $10,000 for NACO. So do I need a motion?
Yes,
to
you do.
Okay, so I have a motion by Mr. Thomas. Do I have a second?
second.
Second by Ms. Bramer. Okay, discussion on that? Okay, we've established a source. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, now we need,
Now you just need to approve items 6, 7, A through C, 8, and 9.
okay, so now we're on 6 on your agenda.
Well, it's personnel items. It's all.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
it's under 10.
You can
Yeah,
approve them all under
10/6, right.
you can approve them all under one motion.
We can do 6 and also A, B, and C. Is that what you're saying?
7A through C, 8 and 9, no, or 8 and 8 can all be approved. Just, yeah.
Okay, so do I have a motion? Motion by Mr. Thomas, second by Mr. Bruno. Okay, discussion? We're grouping those together. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, that's all the agenda items, correct? Okay, pending item, Ms. Bramer wanted to discuss proper, proposed changes in policy to eliminate mileage reimbursement to members of the Board of Supervisors for travel related to committee and board meetings after they are submitted in writing. So, Ms. Bramer, what did you want to say?
No, I,
Mr. Bruno, I'm sorry.
Chairman, I should have brought this up earlier, but just a point of interest, the Winterfest event, everybody is or is not aware, that was in lieu of the normal winter carnival. And it was a pretty good event. So point is, we'll see where that goes next year, whether they do it consecutively or whatever. But,
Yeah. No,
it was
that's a good point.
good endeavor.
No, it was a great endeavor. Yeah, that was a off the cuff, put
Yeah.
together by a bunch of locals who just wanted to make something happen up here, and I applauded it. And then they not only did it, they gave us the money back and $744.02.
I think it was put together in about a tenth the time that it normally takes something of that nature to be organized. So
Yeah.
kudos to them.
Yes, very much so. Thank you. Ms. Bramer, did you want to discuss the mileage reimbursement?
Sure. I know that this came up at the last meeting and I don't want to get into, I don't want to opine about what supervisors did or didn't do in the past. I think that going forward, it makes sense to have a set policy where when people are coming to the committee meetings and or board meetings at the county center on their county time, that they don't get reimbursed for that travel.
Okay, so we can have discussion on this. It is a discussion item. Would anybody like to discuss it? Okay,
I agree with.
Mr. Bruno?
I agree with Supervisor Bramer.
Okay. Just, my 2 cents on the thing is, I know that, town supervisors get a town check and they get a county check. And henceforth, the county municipal center becomes their quote, home office or place of business. As in the private sector, rarely are individuals paid mileage to go to work. I know Washington County eliminated their mileage to supervisors to go to committee meetings and the Board of Supervisor meetings. But they were open to, if any towns wanted to reimburse the individuals, they could do that. And I believe 3 towns in Washington County reimburse their town supervisors. So there's always that option. But are you making a motion, Ms. Bramer, to, what's your motion?
Yeah, I can make that a motion,
Okay,
that we set a policy of no reimbursement to the county center.
okay, you're making a motion. Okay. Do we have a second? Mr. Bruno with a second. Do we have a discussion now? Okay, so I will call the question. We're all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Oh,
One opposed. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Okay, so that passes. Do we have anything, Mr. Lehman? Do we have anything, any public comments? Oh, it's Mike Colvin, his twin brother. Okay. Mr. Colvin, do we have any comments?
There are none.
I usually get chastised if I make a joke, so, okay, very good. So, Mr. McGowan, do you have one final comment?
Yes, just one final comment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. But I just got the proper approvals, if I could join in with that NACO conference. That is a.
Well, we allowed funding of $10,000, so, and up to 4 people, so I don't, yes, Mr. Thomas?
well, if you're worried about money for mileage, I mean, then I don't think you should go.
I didn't.
You didn't vote on the mileage thing, Mr. Thomas.
I didn't put a mileage in yet, but you know, could I on this one? No.
So do we vote on whether Mr. McGowan gets included or how does that work? Yes, Chairwoman Seaver?
We put that amount aside for up to 4 people because we did send an email out to the whole board and asked anyone who was interested to indicate it. So I believe that is where Supervisor McGowan is saying. So I don't think you have to change anything at this point. I will just say that I do appreciate Amanda's efforts and awareness of how much cheaper it is to do early bird and to plan ahead. But also just to note, I think much like Miles, I know Supervisor Thomas, I don't remember last time I ever saw a mileage submission from you. I know last year you came back and forth from the county all the time and never put in for a dime. And I think that in the same token, I know that Doug Beatty went to NACO last year and never put in for a dime. I know we all constantly try, I shouldn't say dime, but I mean, in terms of, I know the county, there is support there for flights and for hotel and for registration fees, but there are a lot of ancillary costs that many of us daily are not submitting for at any time. And I really appreciate that. I think we work hard to try to save on dollars wherever we can and invest in training where appropriate. And we also ask a lot of our employees to do a lot of different travel without any miles reimbursements or expenses. And, you know, I think we're doing a really good job at taking a look at where we can cut and save and what quality, you know, I don't know, I'm rambling. Anyway, that was the answer. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Chairwoman Seaver.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you for your comments, everyone. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Bruno, second by Mr. Thomas. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, carried. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Peter.
No public comment, I guess.
Adjourned.